This was not in the plan. I had no plans to cover the show. I just decided to watch it, on my own casually, and yet here I am in front of my mic. So with that said, hello everybody. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to a discussion on VIVY FLUORITE Eyes Song, episodes 1 and 2. But before we get into it, quick reminder if you haven't done so yet to hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, set notifications to all, let all of AniTube know that you're here. And without further ado, I really want to talk about Vivi. Again, I had no plans to really talk about this show, but I feel kind of compelled. There's just something about it that really caught my attention. Maybe that's the fact that it's the new Tape series, right? Like, if you don't know, Tape Sensei, who worked on ReZero, he wrote the books, so it's his ReZero's his story. Was doing basically series comp and script writing for VIVY FLUORITE Eyes Song. And because it's an original series, that means it's from his pen, right? Like, he's the one working on it. So, this is essentially a new project from him. And I don't know very much about it, honestly. Like, again, I had no plans to talk about the show, so in my big book of notes that I have beside my microphone on all the shows I'm covering, there's nothing on Vivi, because I wasn't really planning to talk about it. I was maybe thinking about doing reactions for it, but I decided just because of all the buzz from people whose, tastes in anime I truly trust, I wanted to check it out. And so I decided, screw it, I'll watch the first 2 episodes on my own. If I really like it, I'll do a reaction for episode 3. But I guess I really, really liked it because here I am. This story, man, it's sort of, I guess the closest analogy I can make, because it is very different, but the closest analogy I can make is that it's very Days of Future Past type of story, right? Like, when I say it's a very Days of Future Past type story, I mean, there's this X-Men story called Days of Future Past. You might have seen the movie, or maybe you read the comic, or seen the cartoon back in the day. The old X-Men cartoon adapted Days of Future Past. That's how I remember it. But Days of Future Past is essentially a story about sending one person back in time to alter future events to stop one group from being destroyed, which leads to devastation for all groups involved, and basically stopping a futuristic apocalypse. That is essentially what we open with in episode 1. This crazy dark future where all this chaos is happening and everything's fallen down, everything's fallen apart, and we see this one scientist who's rushing to get to Vivi, or to get to this program to send it back in time to Vivi in 100 years in the past, to try to alter the course of history. Now, that's a lot to dial in, for sure, but it's definitely an interesting story. And I think the fact that Matsumoto is the one who gets sent back, the dude the AI who eventually takes over the teddy bear, very interesting. And Vivi herself is also quite interesting. And as you guys know around here, I like to specifically zero in on characters. So I'm going to go ahead and do that by talking specifically about Diva/Vivi. She gets the name Vivi from her friend, that poor girl. By the end of episode 2, I was like, oh no, that's super sad. But we basically meet Vivi at the start of her hero's journey, and it's just super interesting how they played that, right? I don't know about you guys, but I like watching, I like seeing the characters and sort of trying to figure out where they are on the hero's journey, right? The hero's journey, if you don't know, is basically this essentially it's a formula to write a protagonist. Every protagonist seems to go on the same hero's journey. There was this observation made that all characters have the hero's journey, and Vivi is definitely at the start. She's at somewhere between Call to Adventure and Crossing the Threshold, right? That's sort of where she is at this point in the story. I don't know how long Vivi's gonna be, but the series, but it's definitely got me thinking it's moving at a good clip. And the idea that she starts off as this basically this idol character, and then by the end we see her become the badass super soldier type character by the end of episode 2. It's super cool. But I do want to sort of zero in on her character design a little bit, because you guys know I like doing that. So it's time for a bit of a design time on Vivi. And I think one of the coolest things to me about the design, and the thing that I was like, yes, perfect, it's the splashes of blue. So Vivi has like very light blue hair and light blue eyes. Perfect. Absolutely perfect, given like her character. She's definitely, the light blue as a color comes off as very calm and sort of like collected, right? But also sort of cold and maybe even a little bit distant. And for an AI in a robot body, that is perfect, right? That is 100% like what the character is and how she should behave as like what we see her as at the beginning, as this sort of like autonomous AI. She should be like calm and collected, but also a bit cold and distant. But the thing that makes her interesting is the fact that there is this slight humanity in there. There's something about Vivi that's different to the other AI, right? Other AI that we see in the episode, at least in the past, right? Like, or not the past, the present for us. Because in the future they all look like humans, but in the past they sort of, it's clear that they're androids, or not androids, it's clear that they're robots to some degree, right? Like the machines that are walking around are clear, they're the AI that are walking around, they're in robot bodies, they don't really look human. It's only Vivi that looks like super humanoid, and then I think some other robots look humanoid, but specifically Vivi. Whereas all the helper bots, you know, they all look like robots. And it's super cool. Like, just the idea that she has this spark to her, there's something different about her that makes her stand out against the other androids, and we see that throughout her design, right? We have, like, for her top, it's this sort of, like, white overcoat with, or not white overcoat, but, like, the white long-sleeve coat that goes over her dress. Forgive me, I'm not great with the names of different clothings, even though I worked in a clothing store for 5 years, forgive me. She has this sort of, like, white coat that goes over her dress with, like, these pink trims to it. And white as a color definitely indicates a lot for Vivi, definitely sort of leaning towards her innocence, but also like her emptiness as an android. Like there's like, she is a robot, right? So she is sort of like head empty, no thoughts, right? But at the same time, we do know that that's not all the way true. The pink in her design, I think, is the best representative of her, like the best representation of the character, since pink as a color typically denotes like a compassionate and maybe even immature type character. And you do see the compassion in Vivi, right? Like, she wants to sing for humans. Like, her goal is to sing and make people happy. That is her mission. Her mission is to sing, make people happy. That's all she wants to do. And we truly see that throughout episode 1, but especially by the end of episode 2. Like, you really see her compassion come through, and I think that that's the pink in the design is like really stand out for me as like very indicative of her character, and even a little bit immature, right? Like, as Matsumoto later like yells at her for her desire to save everybody is a bit ridiculous, like given what the mission they're trying to accomplish is. But for her, the mission is still sing and make everybody happy, and that means keeping everybody alive so that they can stay happy, you know? So her immaturity definitely, her immaturity is like, it's not like naive. I mean, it is naive, but it's not like a youthful immaturity. It's more of just a naivete. And I really, really dug that. Also, the dress is just dope. The dress is like this very like pink and purple, frilly sort of idol dress, which again is perfect given what she's supposed to be. This sort of like idol type character, but it's also, the purple adds like a bit of mysteriousness, because again, Vivi as a character, especially by episode 1, we learn more about her by episode 2, but by episode 1 there's this mysteriousness, like why was she picked, like what's her big deal, like I don't understand what's different about Vivi. And then by the time we find out, Vivi's more in her sort of like battle gear, so she's like sort of coming into her own. By that point, where she has like just like the black sports bra and she's like ready to kick ass, right? Like she just looks sick, basically, is what I'm trying to say. By the time we see, she looks like she's like mid-workout, but also ready to kick your ass by the end of episode 2. And it's just interesting to me. Like the character, I think, is just unique in many ways. She kind of reminds me of Violet, but more interesting. Which I'm sure is going to make some Violet Evergarden fans very mad at me, but that's just kind of the character. That's the vibe she gave me. And she's, of course, voiced by Atsumi Tanizaki, who I love lately. She voiced Nikki in Dr. Stone. She's Juno in Beastars, and Uotani in Fruba. Uotani from Fruits Basket, who Uo is like one of my favorite characters in Fruits Basket. So having her play Vivi, I appreciate that. Makes a lot of sense. She's also, there's echoes of Futaba from Bunny Girl Senpai, Rio, like the scientist girl. Like there's echoes of that in here as well in Tanizaki's performance. And I think her performance as Vivi is just so striking. It's so cool. And I really loved everything that they brought to the table with Vivi as a character. Vivi as a character is what really held the episode together for me. It just really stood out to me as like, this character is cool, I want to follow them. But also this world is cool, and I just want to know more about it, right? Like we meet the politician who's like trying to get like the AI bill passed, but if it gets passed, then like it spells bad news, and like what does that mean? And like the way that the future itself looks, it's really interesting and cool. However, one of the biggest parts of like the mystery of this world to me is Matsumoto. Matsumoto is definitely a little shit. he echoes a lot of like mascot characters in anime now, where like they look cute but they're kind of duplicitous. You know, they're a little bit evil. And you couldn't have gotten a better seiyuu for Matsumoto than Jun Fukuyama. Like, this is like Lelouch v Britannia here, aka Koro Sensei, aka Yuit Lung from friggin' Banana Fish. Yuit Lung. Hate it. That voice, perfect. Because, like, Matsumoto, you love him and you hate him at several points in this episode. He is very aggressive in pursuing his mission. And it's funny because, like, it's genuinely scary at times, like, how intense he pursues it, and the way he like berates Vivi a few times. Like, sure, I was a little annoyed with Vivi on occasion, where I'm like, Vivi, can we just get a wriggle on? Like, come on, Vivi, like blah blah blah. Like, there's greater things at stake here, but also at the same time, you do sympathize with Vivi, whereas Matsumoto doesn't. He's like a very like traditional AI, right? Like, he's very cold cut, like clean cut, like this is what we're doing, this is what we got to do, no in between. This is my mission, gonna accomplish the mission, right? Like, and he's mean about it almost. Like, he's very cold about it. Like, he tells her like, this is stupid, you're stupid, everything's stupid, like this whole thing is dumb, right? Like he just tells her like, you want to know why you were picked? It's because like 100 years from now, you're a museum piece. You're the last thing. Like you get sent to a museum, and that's it. Like, the only reason that you were picked is because you're still a complete robot in the future. Like, you're still intact in the future. You're one of the few things. You weren't picked because you're some magical being. That's why you were picked. And it's like, geez, Matsumoto, you could have said it nicer, my guy. Part of me almost questions if that's a lie. Because it's like, that was so mean and cold, but like it also gave Vivi the push she needed. So I almost wonder if that was the point, like if he was being mean on purpose. I don't know. But again, given the nature of the fact that I don't know whether or not I can even really trust Matsumoto, Fukuyama was a great pick because he voices really good characters for that specific archetype. And even like the design itself of like Matsumoto, not so much like the little cube thing, but like when he jumps into the teddy bear, it makes a lot of sense. You know, he's patchwork, which, you know, relatable. As a patchwork zombie myself, I appreciate it. But patchwork typically is sort of like reworking something, right? Like it's parts of something old mixed with something new. And that really works given what Matsumoto is. He's this AI from the future who's trying to integrate with the present day tech, and he's basically jumping into a body that is not his own. So hence he is patchwork. I thought that was really clever to show like he is this like cute teddy bear, but he's also this future AI that's like trying to stop AI in general, like trying to stop other AI. The mission itself, by the way, it just strikes me as very like hypocritical. Right? Like, he makes fun of Vivi for being so passionate about her mission and yet is so relentless in his own. And he says that he needs to destroy humans in order to fulfill his mission, but by fulfilling his mission, he's siding with the AI because the AI specifically just carry out a mission. So by carrying out a mission, he's just an AI. Yeah, right? Like, so it's like the whole mission comes off as like, this is weird. And also, as a zombie boy who was once human, I'm just gonna be honest with you, humans kind of suck. So, you know, hard for me to feel bad. That said, like, I don't necessarily, like, I don't know what the answer is, right? Because it's like, well, you can't let the AI kill the humans. That's not good. You also can't let the humans kill the AI. That's also not good, you know? Like, so it's like you have to find some sort of balance here. I don't know what it is, but you gotta find some sort of balance. I don't know what. But yeah, Matsumoto's whole design is just, or whole character arc is just interesting. And again, the design itself, like I said, the patchwork design, I think is also very fascinating. The fact that it's like brown and blue, I think is really interesting, because like the brown parts of the bear, it's sort of like is almost telling you how like they're making fun of like how a teddy bear is usually depicted, which is like dependable, reliable, predictable, right? Like brown as a color is very like whatever. It's dependable, it's reliable, and it's predictable, right? Like brown is sort of like, it's just there. Like brown in a design is like, you can rely on the color brown. You know what I mean? Like brown is just like, that is someone to be trusted. Brown is reliable. In Matsumoto's case, it's like they're poking fun at it, because it's like, he is technically dependable, reliable, and predictable, but in weird ways, right? He's predictable in the sense that you can rely on him to know what's gonna happen, and he's dependable in the sense that you know that he can do the things that he's saying he can do, and he's reliable in that, but it's not good. You know what I mean? Like, it's not good things. It's like the inverse of what brown usually indicates. And then blue, the blue parts of the design, it's similar, again, like the blue in Vivi's design I thought was really striking and it made a lot of sense, but Matsumoto's is a darker blue, not so much light blue. And darker blue is definitely more confident, right? Like confident in their calmness, confident in their distantness. And that's definitely Matsumoto all over. Matsumoto is very confident in their ability to carry out the mission. They need Vivi to do it, but they are confident in the fact that they can accomplish said mission. However, they're also very confident in their dismissiveness. They're very cold, very distant, and they're totally okay with that. And that's just super striking to me as like a character. You know, like Matsumoto and Vivi are definitely the reasons that I'm intrigued to check it out. As for what's coming up next, it looks like they're going to space. And when they say like, we're going to space, and they meet this organization and they go, welcome to Sunrise. Sunrise. The space team is called Sunrise. Somebody's getting sued. But that made me laugh. I was like, Sunrise? That's hilarious. All I thought about was Gundam. But yeah, well, Gundam and Code Geass. But yeah, that made me laugh. I was like, Sunrise! But yeah, as for whether or not I'm going to continue to talk about Vivi, I don't know. I wasn't planning on it, but now it's like, I don't know. I'll tell you what, if this video does well, then sure, I'll come back and I'll talk about it for the rest of the season. But this video has to do well. Like, if this video gets like I'm gonna really give you a challenge and say like, if this video gets 200 likes in the first day, then I will continue to talk about Vivi. Because again, I wasn't planning on it, which would mean I'd have to do a bunch more research on the show. Fun. I usually do that before the season starts. But yeah, if this show does well, like if it does as good as like the other shows that I'm covering right now, then I'll swap out Slime 300 for Vivi. Since Slime 300 and Vivi and like a bunch of other shows were kind of close, like Slime 300 was, it was between, I can't remember what it was between Slime 300, Nagatoro, and Vivi, I believe, for like the show that people wanted me to talk about. So if this does well, I will trade off Slime 300, even though I'm really excited to talk about it. But I'm also kind of like intrigued to talk about Vivi. I don't know. If the video does well, I'll talk about it. I want to talk about both, but I don't want to overwork myself, so I can only really talk about one. So if this does well, we'll talk about Vivi. If it doesn't, I'm going to just stick with Slime 300 because that's what I wanted to talk about anyway. But with that said, everybody, that is going to wrap up today's video here, so I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to boop that up snoot, share if you care, leave a comment down below, and of course, make sure that you hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, set notifications to all, and let all of AniTube know that you're here. And of course, before we go, as always, I want to give a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. Look at these beautiful people. Look at all these beautiful names. And hey, if you would like to join these beautiful people, the best way to do that is by hitting that Patreon link in the description. For just a single $1, you can get your name floating past the screen, and it helps me out tremendously. Or you can hit that join button. It's a little bit more, but you get a badge next to your name and some emotes to spam in the comments. Either way, whether you choose to hit that Patreon link or you hit the join button, it is super appreciated. So once again, a big thank you to the good folks in the T Squadron. And that is it for me. Again, I leave this in your hands, you good folks. I almost called you chat. I've been spending too much time on Twitch. But I leave this in your hands. If you want me to keep talking about Vivi, then better share the video. I don't know. Like, if the video does well, I'll keep talking about it. If not, maybe I'll just do reactions on the second channel. It depends, right? If this video does well on the main channel, we'll keep it on the main channel. If it doesn't, I'm going to do reactions on the second channel. So, yeah, anyway, bye!